NFL fans, week 1 is officially in the books, and we turn the page to week 2. Welcome to the Pro Football Insiders Football Buffet. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Rob Guerrera and Coach Kevin Smith. Rob, welcome back to week 2. How's it going?
Well, it'd be a lot better if my quarterback wasn't already injured in San Francisco, but other than that, fine.
Coach Kevin Smith, how are you?
I'm doing great. Our quarterback's not injured, but he's 41 years old, so that's also a cause for concern.
And he got beat to hell in week 1, but he still won the football game, so that's what matters the most. Nonetheless, we're going to get you all ready for week 2. We're also going to take a look back at week 1 and make sure we get all the stories covered that need to be covered. And let's start with, as we always do our shows, the story of the week. Each and every one of us has a different story from the last week heading into this week. Coach, I'm going to let you start first today. What's your story of the week?
Well, my story of the week, when I think back to week 1, is redemption stories. Right? If you think about the Bob Marley redemption song playing in your head, right? You've got, particularly at the quarterback position, 3 quarterbacks who were really given up on by their previous employers, who had an opportunity to redeem themselves in week 1 and did so fabulously. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, 4 touchdown passes against the Jets, lead the Steelers to a big win. Justin Fields, his counterpart, going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who kind of walked away from him last year. And he looked excellent, as good as I've ever seen Justin Fields, as accurate, as decisive as I've ever seen him. And then you guys laughed at me last week when I brought up Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, goes into Indianapolis, wins the starting job, and then has a heck of a week 1. So for 1 week anyway, those 3 quarterbacks played some really good football. And yeah, I was happy to see for all of them.
Real quick, Coach, how many of those 3 quarterbacks are going to turn into a pumpkin in week 2?
Possibly all 3, but we're not here to talk about that, Jeff. We're honoring them right now.
That is true. All right, let's turn it over to stats. What's your story of the week, Rob?
For me, the Green Bay Packers, I feel like, are not getting enough love. They were 1-5 in the division last year. They play the Lions, and I know the Lions, had a big brain drain in the coaching department and all of that, but they came out and dominated that game right from the start. And I feel like this is big for Green Bay. I didn't realize this. They were outscored, the Packers were, 99-40 in the first half of divisional games last year. They got their teeth kicked in early against division rivals. This time, they go right up on Detroit, 10-0 in the first quarter. They never look back. The final score is not even indicative of this game. The Packers absolutely mauled the Lions. This is with Micah Parsons barely, being in Green Bay for any amount of time. I was really impressed with the Packers, and an NFC that I don't know has a bunch of powerhouse teams. They might be starting to have one in Green Bay.
I don't know. Coach, you think Green Bay's a team to beat in the NFC?
I wouldn't go that far, because Philadelphia will get better and better as the season goes, but they do look like a complete football team right now. That Jordan Love will be better in his second season as a full starter, third season, and then obviously adding Micah Parsons brings some juice that they lacked. So they got that's a tough division, the NFC North. So they're gonna have to stay healthy, but certainly a great start.
Absolutely. My story of the week has to do with place kickers. Talk about the haves and the have-nots around the NFL when it comes to place kickers. You saw, Rob, the 49ers. I'll let you talk about that in a second. You saw Cleveland. Missed extra point, a missed chip shot. They could have won the game over Cincinnati in Cleveland. You saw even Nick Folk for the New York Jets missing an extra point, which caused them to have to go to the 2-point conversion game, which they failed on both of those. It changes the dynamic of a game. And oh, by the way, you do have someone like Chris Boswell nailing a 56 and a 60-yarder, which turned out to be the game-winning field goal. That was good from 65 plus. I mean, honestly, if you see that side angle of that kick, it is turning into, we always talk about the haves and the have-nots in terms of quarterback play. It's turning into the haves and the have-nots in terms of kicker. You have Brandon Aubrey, you've got Chris Boswell, you've got some phenomenal kickers, and then the rest, holy cow. Rob, go ahead. I'm going to let you vent for a little bit.
Well, I might see him as a kicker that missed a 27-yard field goal in week 1. 27 yards. He hit the friggin' upright. It's, Mike Tomlin said after the Steelers win that our kicker's a serial killer. Kickers are like lawyers. Everybody hates them until you need them. And then when you need them, you want the best one in the world, right?
Yeah.
They get disrespected, but they are important because of what you talked about, right? Having the to go get a touchdown instead of being able to kick a field goal is massive, especially at the end of games they get disrespected, but it does matter, especially now with the kickoffs. Being able to land it, in the landing zone adds a little extra layer of responsibility for the kickers. They don't get enough love. And you're right. You either got a really good one or you're just in this crap Jake Moody world.
Now, Coach, I want to ask you a question as a football coach. Chris Boswell was quoted after the game after making that 60-yard kick that kickers have always had the ability of getting distance on their kicks, but it's just now that coaches are trusting them to make the kicks. You agree with that sentiment?
I do. I feel as though the mindset has shifted. The metrics crowd, which is encouraging people to go for it on fourth downs, is basically making the argument that punting the ball back to your opponent has less value than trying to score points. And given the fact that the distance on kicks now has increased tremendously and the accuracy, it wasn't that long ago where a 50-plus yard field goal was a 50-50 proposition. Last year, kickers made 50-plus yarders 79% of the time. So you're now getting into this is, it's not a layup, but it's not that far away. Obviously, it's encouraged now the offensive coordinators to be more aggressive.
What's up, Rob? What do you want to say?
Well, there's another little wrinkle in this, in that this year they let the kickers have the K ball, the specialized ball, for a week before the game. So they can, I don't know, rub up on it, buy it flowers, give it a little wine, whatever they do for that week. But a lot of kickers have talked about how, they think it's going to help them just being able to break in these footballs for an entire week. And I don't know, maybe it has or it's not, but it seems to be a thing.
I have no doubt that. Have you guys ever held an NFL football?
Yes.
It's awful. It is awful. It's slick, right? It's not, it's not broken in at all. It's hard to throw. It's hard to kick. So yeah, you get that thing for a week and you get to, rough it up like pitchers like to do with a baseball. I definitely think that has an advantage.
Look what it's done for Jake Moody and the 49ers. That's all I'm going to say. It's a great change.
Right. It's really a lifesaver.
All right, let's go to the matchup segment where, Coach, you talk about intriguing matchups from an X's and O's perspective heading into week 2. What do you got for us this week?
Yeah, I'll piggyback off what Rob was talking about with the Green Bay Packers. I think that their pass rush against the Washington Commanders' offensive line will be a really interesting matchup to watch. Washington's O-line paved the way for 220 plus rushing yards against the Giants, but they did give up 3 sacks. Green Bay, their rush looked excellent. 4 sacks against Detroit. They gave up just 46 rushing yards to the Lions. So, this is going to be one of those games where if Washington can get a run game going early, if they can get a push and begin to handle Green Bay's front physically a little bit, then obviously that'll open up the passing game. But if they can't get that run game going and Green Bay just gets to tee off on Jaden Daniels, then that obviously is going to favor the Packers. So, I would look for the Commanders to try to establish the run early in that game and build off of it. I think the other really interesting matchup is Houston's D-backs against Tampa Bay's wide receivers. The Bucs only had 167 passing yards last week against Atlanta, but Emeka Egbuka looked great. And Mike Evans is still Mike Evans. Those two guys, out of those 167 yards, combined for over 120 of them. But now you got this Houston secondary, with Darryl Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They held Matthew Stafford and the Rams to just 14 points, under 300 total yards. Puka Nacua kind of went off. He had the bulk of the offense. He had 130 receiving yards for the Rams. So what was the philosophy?
We lost Coach. We'll be back. All right, Rob, what did you think about the Green Bay and Washington game, which, by the way, for those that don't know, that is a Thursday night game, going to be a lot of fun. What did you think about that one?
I'm excited to see the quarterback matchup, quite frankly. Jaden Daniels and Jordan Love, yes, please. I'm excited for it. I'm less all in on – I'm not less all. I'm just I want to see Jaden Daniels in year 2. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks have a really good year 1. I want to see him in year 2. I'm not saying he can't do it at all, but, I feel like he was crowned very, very early, and we have seen in the history of the NFL, quarterbacks in their second year struggle a little bit. This will be a nice test. I thought Daniels played well against the Giants defense that I think is pretty good. I thought the Giants were going to win that game, so, I'm an idiot. What do I know? But this is another, can Jaden Daniels just check the box against Jordan Love and the Packers?
And the Buccaneers-Texans, the other game the coach was alluding to, is the Monday night game. They're doing a doubleheader again, and thank God they got smart enough to not run these games at the same time like they tried last year. I thought that was one of the dumbest things they could have done, was let's overlap games when we don't have to in a standalone format. The early game is Buccaneers-Texans, and that is going to be at 7 o'clock with a nightcap Chargers-Raiders at 10 o'clock. Stats, what are your thoughts on the Bucs and Texans in that early one on Monday night?
Well, the Bucs, I'm also sort of, again, in wait-and-see mode. They lost Liam Cohen. He was phenomenal for them last year. Baker Mayfield threw 41 touchdown passes. I've seen Baker Mayfield with good offensive coaching, and I've seen him with less than good offensive coaching, and that Baker Mayfield looks like two totally different players. So with Baker, I want to see how does he look now that Liam Cohen is gone. Like you said, he threw for 167 yards in week 1. Did throw for 3 touchdowns and no picks, which obviously is fantastic. But again, I'm going to be keeping my eye on throughout the year is which Baker Mayfield essentially are we going to get this season?
It's going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting how this all plays out, which leads us to Stats, your commentary. I know that you've had some very passionate opinions about some coaching decisions that have been going on around the NFL. I'm going to give you the floor. Go ahead. What do you got?
Head coaching is a management position. Player management, game management, time management. And so often we see NFL head coaches just absolutely whiff when it comes to all of those. We saw it last night, for example, right? The Bears are trying to come back. They score a touchdown with 2 minutes, and I think it was 2 seconds left. They had just enough time to score before the 2-minute warning, which was important because they only had one timeout, and they're trying to stop the Vikings and get the ball back and make a last-ditch comeback effort. I don't know what Ben Johnson was thinking, but he decides to not kick the ball out of bounds, to not kick the ball through the back of the end zone. And on the flip side, the Vikings catch the ball in the end zone, and you can see the Vikings returner. This was a great shot by the broadcast. He looks right over at Kevin O'Connell, and Kevin O'Connell is waving his arms saying, return the kick, because he wanted those 2 seconds to come off of the clock so that the Bears wouldn't be able to stop the clock, or they would only be able to stop it once instead of twice, which obviously makes a big difference. Little things like that. John Harbaugh on 4th and 2 with Josh Allen just absolutely avalanching you in the fourth quarter of that game. You have Lamar Jackson, you have Derrick Henry, it's 4th and 2, and you punt the ball back to the Bills instead of going for it? Like, what are we doing here? Game management decisions. Same thing with the Seahawks. Mike McDonald, 4th and 1. You decide to kick a field goal against the 49ers instead of going for it. You kicked the field goal. Great, you made it. But you know what you did? You opened the door for Brock Purdy to go down and steal that game with a touchdown, which he eventually did. The management decision by head coaches is every single week you can find at least one decision that makes you scratch your head.
Coach, are you here with us? Because we lost your audio earlier. Are you with us?
I got you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
All right.
we can. Great.
Beautiful.
And I'm glad, because I wanted to get your take on what Rob was talking about. Rob brings up a very interesting topic as it pertains to the way coaches manage time, manage specific situations. That's what it comes down to. Rob illustrated it perfectly. It's not just about, oh, let's look at a sheet, 4th and 1, blah, 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 we're up, yada, yada, yada. No, it's the vibe of the game. Kicking it back to Josh Allen at that stage, you saw it. He was running rampant, making unbelievable throws. What's your take, Coach, on this perspective from a coach's perspective?
I think there's 2 ways to look at it. One is the pure clock management, which Rob was alluding to. I mean, masterful job by Minnesota to direct that returner, to be able to get under the 2-minute warning, and a poor job by Chicago. But when it comes to decisions about whether or not you're going to go for it on 4th down in a certain situation, you really have to know your team. You really have to feel confident in your offense to be able to convert those 1 or 2 yards you need, or in your defense that if you choose to kick the field goal or punt the ball, that they can make a stop. Kicking the ball back to the Bills and Josh Allen, I think, is indefensible, because it's either arrogance or hubris, like, hey, we got this, or it's just stupidity. I mean, that's just not a smart decision. But in many instances, I do believe that coaches say, we trust our defense here. Or, or if you're Dan Campbell, it's the opposite. I mean, he goes for it on 4th down all the time. We trust our offense here. And that's easy to second guess, but I think that that's something that a head coach has to be able to do with knowledge of who his team is and what they're capable of.
And when you look at Baltimore, this is where it doesn't make sense. It would be different. Like, let's look at Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers, first year with the team. There's a lot of questions there on that offensive side of the ball. It'd be different if you're Ben Johnson as a first-year head coach with the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams. You're talking about the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and this veteran-laden group. They've been there. They've done that. Cowardice is what I call it. You called it hubris at times. I call it cowardice. Rob, any final thoughts here?
Just put the game in the hands of your best players all the time. And especially when you have an elite quarterback and especially when you're facing an elite quarterback. I don't know why these coaches don't understand it. It's very strange to me. And I feel like this is one instance where us growing up playing Madden helps. They actually did it, right? They weren't doing that. I feel like a lot of us just watching these games, you play Madden with the time management, the game management, understanding, hey, how many possessions am I even going to get here down the stretch, and how does that need to change my thinking with the decision making? It boggles my mind, but if we wanted to, we could pick out at least one decision every week from a head coach that makes us go, what the hell are we thinking?
That's a great point. And Coach, how much do you lean on analytics as a coach? I don't know if you do it all. You were a head coach for over a decade. Now you're just an offensive coordinator. How do you lean on analytics, and what does your program do with those analytics?
I'm not a huge fan at the high school level because I think that those numbers can be deceiving a lot of times. There are such talent disparities between high schools that it's hard to lean in on numbers because you can rack up false numbers by playing a bad team. In the NFL, where the talent is much more even from week to week, I think it matters a lot more. But I do think that a lot of it comes down to the personality of your head coach. If you believe that in a more of a gunslinger mindset, then your team will be prepared for that. Like, you prepare your team ahead of time for consequences. Like, if you're the DC of the Lions, you know that there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be having to defend short fields because Dan Campbell's going to go for it from his own 42-yard line. And you prepare for that. That's not something you can spring on guys in the middle of the game. Hey, man, get ready because I'm going for it here on our own 39-yard line. Like, that's got to be a game plan preparation issue. So however you do it, you need to be consistent with it and you need to be prepared for it.
All right, so let's switch gears and now let's look ahead to week 2. We're talking about predictions. This does not have to be an upset pick. I was able to give you an upset pick last week. I took the Raiders going into Foxborough and winning, which they did. I don't remember. I mentioned Pez's picks. Kevin, you did not give us the Colts, did you? Or you just gave it a shout out?
I gave you the Chargers over the Chiefs, so I got that
yours.
One too. So.
Rob, who'd you give us last week? I can't remember.
I gave you the Giants over the Commanders.
Sorry. Hey, 2-1's not bad. 2-1 is not bad.
I'll apologize in advance for this week. How about that?
Good Lord. Well, Rob, why don't you kick us off? What's your prediction for the week?
My prediction for the week is that Justin Fields turns back into a pumpkin. I know that he was getting a lot of love for how he performed in week 1. I've never been a Justin Fields believer. I still won't be a Justin Fields believer. You're facing the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, I think, is going to come out and start scoring points, and Justin Fields is going to feel the urgency. I don't think the Jets are going to be able to stick with their run game as much as they did against the Steelers. Obviously, I think that's going to hurt Justin Fields, so I expect a pumpkin performance by him, and the Bills will be 2-0.
All right, Coach Kevin Smith, what do you got?
I agree with Rob in that sense because Fields had a cheat sheet. He knew the Steelers' defense very intimately. He will not have that same advantage against Buffalo. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions in a bounce-back performance over the Chicago Bears. I think the way the Bears ended that game on Monday night was devastating for them. I mean, that had all the makings of a coming out, the Ben Johnson era beginning in Chicago. Caleb Williams looked really good for about 2.5 quarters. And like, you kept thinking, boy, he's got Caleb Williams right. Like Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, the Bears, they're going to take off here. And then it just fell apart. And in that fourth quarter, Chicago looked like a team that knew it was going to lose that football game. And I think that's a tough thing as a coach to try to change. When you have a culture that gets used to losing, turning it around is hard. And you know how you do it? By winning. And so to lose that game, I think psychologically will be difficult for Chicago. Now they got to go to Detroit, who was kind of embarrassed in Green Bay. And with Ben Johnson coming back into the building, I think Dan Campbell will have that team amped up. I think this is a tough one for the Bears.
All right, so I'm going to try and give you an upset pick every week. So I could give you picks and all that stuff, but I'm going to give you an upset pick. I don't know why. There's something about this game that's just jumping off the page. Maybe it's another primetime game. I don't know. But the Falcons are getting 4.5 points on the road against the Vikings. I watched the Vikings play, and I'm sorry, J.J. McCarthy looked like a rookie. And technically, he is a rookie because he did not play last year. And I think the Vikings, even with Michael Penix Jr., showed a lot of promise. I think that they're going to get better. I think they're going to continue to find ways to get Bijan Robinson and some of their playmakers the football. Give me the Falcons on the road to beat the Minnesota Vikings. That's my upset pick of the week. Any thoughts on that, Rob, or any other games you want to highlight?
Well, it's interesting because I was all set to kill the Vikings, right? Like, hey, you had Sam Darnold. He played well for you, even though I'm not a Darnold believer. Like, he clearly played well, and they let him just walk out the door because they had J.J. McCarthy. And J.J. McCarthy, early in that game, I'm sitting there like, did Minnesota make a huge mistake? He impressed me with the way he hung tough. I loved his rushing touchdown in the fourth quarter. He could have just kind of gone out of bounds or slid down or whatever. Instead, he like wedged his way in between two of the blockers and powered the ball in the end zone. I like sort of the little killer instinct vibe he had there. Kevin O'Connell is a good coach. I think he's one of the better quarterback. I hate the phrase quarterback whisperer, but I think he can do a lot with quarterbacks there. So I'll be keeping my eye on that one as well, because dealing with success is a skill, and it's different from dealing with adversity, but they're both skills. McCarthy's going to get all the love this week. Everyone's going to be talking about how good J.J. McCarthy is. Don't come into this game on Sunday Night Football against the Falcons and lay an egg, and then you're 1-1, and all of a sudden you've sort of blunted your momentum a little bit. So I'll be keeping my eye on that one for sure.
Coach, any other game? We didn't even talk Eagles-Chiefs. Like, Eagles-Chiefs is this week. No one talked about that game. I was shocked.
Well, I'll talk about it real quick. I mean, technically it's an upset if Kansas City wins because the Eagles are favored by 1.5. I mean, I think that's a pretty good toss-up.
I'll take the Chiefs.
I'll take the Chiefs, too. I'll take the Chiefs because I can't see them starting 0-2, especially when everybody else in the division won. Right now, they're in last place in the division. This is a game where they got to have some urgency about them. I thought they looked bad in Brazil. So this will be a real test of their championship medal. And I just get a feeling, man, they're going to figure out a way to get it done.
Rob, you disagree?
The Eagles stomped them in the Super Bowl. Like, I don't know what it is. Jalen Hurts plays well against the Chiefs. He played really well against them in their first Super Bowl. I don't know if it's a Fangio, Andy Reid thing. I can't explain it, but it's hard for me to pick against the Eagles in that scenario. The Chiefs, look, they did a ton in one-score games last season. Obviously, they won 15 games. Like, I'm not saying the Chiefs aren't good, but we can't just assume they're going to be able to pull that out every year. I haven't really been impressed with the Chiefs' offense in kind of a few years. I'm taking Philly in this one. I think the Eagles are going to stomp them again.
It'll be interesting. That'll be a fun game to watch for sure. And we always finish up the show with my favorite tip, this segment. It's the tailgating tip. And it's always going to be about grilling, folks. If you're going to a tailgate, you got to do it right. You got to grill. We talked last week about how you have a charcoal. You got to use the charcoal. You got to be old school. My tip this week is don't be afraid to do something that's a little outside the box. Don't be afraid to grill some things that are not the norm. I'll give you a little recipe here. You get banana peppers, not real spicy. Have them, seed them, put cheese, wrap in bacon, throw them on the grill, let those things soften up. That is a very nice add to the brats, the burgers, the dogs that you're already doing on the grill. Mix it up a little bit. Rob, how was your Triple H last week? Was it good?
It's always good, especially when the team wins. Heineken hot wings and Haagen-Dazs. I'm telling you, you laugh. All I'm here to do is solve problems.
Is there a flavor of Haagen-Dazs that you always go to, or is it mixed up every year?
I like chocolate peanut butter. That's my favorite. I like it because it's chocolate ice cream with chunks of peanut butter in there. Don't get the peanut butter flavored ice cream. That's garbage. You want chocolate with peanut butter. And if you want to make your own, you can, but put the peanut butter in and put it back in the freezer. You want the peanut butter to get hard and solidify. You don't want it to be soft in there.
Jeez, it's like you're coaching up your ice cream. That's great. I love it.
Look, food is important. Okay?
Yes, I agree, especially during a game.
Yes.
What's your
stressful
go-to
experience?
What's your go-to, Coach?
During the game, my go-to during a game. Oh man, this is the most unfootball thing you're ever going to hear in your entire life.
No.
But man, I love hummus. I love hummus. So I got that's my go-to. I don't want to weigh myself down, Jeff. The brats, it's a little heavy for me. I need my energy while I'm rooting for the Steelers.
Going to the
chickpeas.
Yes.
You're giving me chickpeas.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't tell anybody. All right. I don't want this to get out. Oh, wait a minute. We're on a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob's chugging beers and eating ice cream, and Kevin's eating hummus and pita chips.
I've never been more disappointed in you, Coach.
It's a global sport, Rob. I'm trying to,
This has been another great football buffet. Coach, I want to give you an opportunity to plug social media handles, your podcast. Go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, Whiteboard Wednesday show tomorrow or today actually, where we're going to focus on passing in the red zone, which is I think a really challenging thing. And I was taking some notes over the weekend, looking at some of the concepts that teams were running down in the red zone. We're going to talk about that. Thursday is usually our college football show. We'll talk a little bit about it, but it's also the anniversary of September 11th, and I'm going to take a little bit of time. I was a history teacher for 30 years, and I really feel as though remembering some of these events in their context, both what they meant then and what they mean now, is important. So we'll talk a little bit about that on Thursday.
Very good. Rob, do the same. Plug socials, all that good stuff.
So we're more of just a football-only channel on my channel, the 49ers Gold Standard Podcast Network. But I agree with everything you said, Coach. Perspective definitely warranted today, maybe more than ever. But just search Gold Standard 49ers if you want anything from me. We pop right up on YouTube or podcasts. And we're live every single day. So, yeah, now's the time. Give us a chance. You'll come back.
Absolutely. I want to remind everyone that the Pro Football Insiders YouTube channel is quickly growing. So if you're listening to this, subscribe, like all the videos, watch all the content. You'll get Rob. Coach will be on there as well. And you can check out Rob's Stats on Fire podcast, this podcast, and some more that we're going to be accruing as we go throughout the season. Find us on Apple Podcasts. Just search Pro Football Insiders. You'll find that feed right there. That's it. Another buffet in the books. I'm full. So we'll talk next week. Guys, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.